Hi, my name is Francis Shen. I direct the Career Network in Neuroscience and Society, supported by the Dana Foundation. And I'm really excited today to be joined by Meredith Banasiak, who is going to talk to us about neuroarchitecture and neurodesign. Meredith is Director of Research for Boulder Associates and a current board member of the Academy of Neuroscience for Architecture, has trained in a neuroscience laboratory, developed workshops bringing together architects and neuroscience to cultivate this new discipline. And we're so excited that you're speaking with us today. The first question is, what exactly is this intersection of neuroscience and architecture, and what is the career path that you followed to be innovating in that field?
Oh, wonderful. And thank you, Dr. Shen, for inviting me. We're so excited about the NeuroX Careers Initiative. So neuroarchitecture is two things. It started with kind of doing neuroscience on architecture. So kind of the seminal study was the discovery of neurogenesis in rats who were living in enriched environments. And, from this, architects understood that our environment really is changing our brain and our behavior. So there is still, neuroscience being done on environments, spatial navigation and wayfinding, environmental neuroscience, which looks at the effect of nature, and then certainly a lot on atmospheric qualities like light and our circadian health. Impacts of, CO2 is a big one on not just COVID transmission, but cognition. And then the other side of that is neuroscience for architecture, which is more of what I do. And so it's taking those lab findings coming out of neuroscience and figuring out how to translate it and apply to the way that we're designing our built environments. So in practice, this means we do a lot of research in real world settings, which is very different kind of research than laboratory based research, but not less than. And it's the wearables and the sensors which are giving us metrics which are surrogates for nervous system activity that's allowing us to do this kind of research in real world settings.
That's great.
Yeah.
How did you get involved in this field? What was your particular pathway?
Oh, goodness. Going way back, I as a child, the term they used for us, I think, was just sensitive child, but was certainly very sensitive to the environments around me. And, it really to the point that I felt like there were certain environments I couldn't quite function in. And so I wanted to know both what was happening in my brain in response to these environments, but also I wanted to design environments where that wasn't going to happen anymore. My undergraduate education was actually pre-med, so I learned kind of science, but as much as important as that was my study of archaeology. So in archaeology, and I study classical archaeology, we study artifacts and ruins to learn about people and culture. And architecture is just the reverse of that. We'd study people and cultures to design artifacts and buildings and spaces, right? So archaeology taught me a lot about that human environment connection. And so, following my professional degree in architecture, I joined the Academy of Neuroscience for Architecture as what they called a pioneer, and that was our actual title. And we fought to change it to, research associate or something that sounded more professional. But really, we were pioneering this new discipline back then.
And what advice would you have for students who are, interested in this field? I mean, it's tough. All of these intersections of neuroscience and another discipline that can be intimidating because it's tough to learn architecture and design. It's tough to learn neuroscience. It seems especially tough to try and mix the two. Where does somebody start? What resources would you suggest? What kinds of things might they do as a first step?
Yeah, a great question because I feel like, for people going into this field as well as other NeuroX careers, they're preparing for careers that don't yet exist in a lot of cases. And so it's about interdisciplinary thinking. My neuroscience training was actually with someone in neuroscience and education. And so while it wasn't specific to architecture neuroscience, that was that interdisciplinary thinking and training. As far as architecture specifically, it's expected that we're going to go through our own kind of revolution in response to machine learning and AI. And so I think sort of staying ahead of that and understanding that data, not drawings, is going to be the new currency of our design field.
Mm.
So doing things like data science, computational design, and that kind of science feels maybe more aligned with our creative discovery process in architecture. It's not so linear. It's more kind of like research and discovery. And generative. So I hope there's a good fit between those ways of thinking.
That's neat. I had never heard that description before. The future, sort of looking as much as data and not just drawings. That's really neat image and provocative, and probably a great way to end this conversation. So thank you so much. Students, if you're watching, you can learn more about neuroarchitecture, neurodesign, lots of other NeuroX fields at our website, neuroxcareers.org, and definitely check out the Academy of Neuroscience for Architecture, ANFA website. It's linked on our page too. Probably the place to go to learn more about this exciting new field. Thank you, Meredith, for sharing your thoughts with us today.
Thank you very much.